Good morning, Raleigh. I'm Kayla G, and this is Rise and Unwind. Yes, we know it's a little early, but think of it as the calm before your day really gets going. We've got what's happening around town, what people are talking about, and a few things to help you wake up without needing that third cup of coffee. Yes. So stick with us. We'll ease you into the day the right way. This week, we've got this.
People have saved and invested, and they've been trained, and it's become a habit to save for 40 years or so. And they're not psychologically prepared to spend that money when they actually get into retirement.
So that's something that creeps up on you and you're at least prepared for when that activity ramps up. So having something fast and effective on hand can make all the difference.
We have access to so much nutrition information out there today, and I think what we forget is that just because it worked for your friend, your family member, your neighbor, does not mean it's personalized to you, nor is it necessarily going to work.
Another part of the survey showed that over half of men have intentionally avoided financial conversations because they feel like they're supposed to be able to do it by themselves.
But the big thing, keep it simple, make a plan, and hydration is often overlooked when we're on the go.
All that and more right here on Rise and Unwind Raleigh.
Some stories don't fade with time, especially when they involve trust, friendship, and betrayal. The new 3-part Hulu docuseries, Friends Like These, The Murder of Skylar Neese, revisits the 2012 disappearance of a West Virginia teenager and the shocking truth that followed. It's a story told through social media, personal interviews, and voices closest to the case. So joining us this morning are director Claire Titley and former FBI agent and polygraph examiner Dr. Rob Ambrosini. Thank you two for being here. How are you?
Thank you. Good. Thank you.
All right, Claire, what stood out to you about this case and what made you feel like it needed to be revisited now, more than a decade later?
I think one of the things that made me, that was so kind of shocking about this case when I first kind of looked at it was the fact that it's 2012 and it's quite a unique era in a way for social media, because it was that era where social media was new. It was kind of a new frontier. It was the kind of Wild West though as well. And teenagers were experimenting with it. They were just putting their entire lives online. They didn't have the hindsight that we have now about kind of, what could possibly go wrong. But also it was an era where adults weren't really looking at social media. So nobody was kind of checking up on them. There were no sort of checks and balances. And that makes that generation of teenagers at that kind of time particularly unique. They're almost like the guinea pigs of social media.
And the series used Skylar's own words and social media posts that you said. How did that storytelling change the ways this story unfolds for viewers?
I think it was really important to us to try and give Skylar a voice. We didn't want her to just be a kind of a plot point in a true crime, where she's just the kind of victim and has no voice. We really wanted her to have agency in telling her own story, which is harder than it sounds, obviously when she's gone. But she left behind this incredible sort of archive of tweets, of digital messages, but also her own writing as well. So we worked very closely with her parents to make sure that we could just bring her voice kind of front and center, and that she could at least be a part of telling this story from the inside out. So we interview her friends as well, quite comprehensively, so that we can hear this story from the 16-year-old perspective, including Skylar herself.
And Dr. Ambrosini, you spent 24 years with the FBI. You've conducted thousands of polygraph exams. When you look at this case, what role did interviewing and behavioral analysis play in getting the truth?
Well, interviewing really played a significant role. And long before I became involved in the case, the two young girls, they were interviewed by case agents, state troopers, local police investigators. And during that process, you kind of started seeing this evolution of what really should be fact, right? When things are fact, it doesn't change, right? The truth is the truth, and it's always going to be the truth. But there were indications during these interviews that really did result in kind of like this evolution of their story. And of course, when that happens, the logical investigation is, why is this person changing that story, right? So this case is kind of about the behavior that's exhibited, the ideation, what's going on, what are they thinking, and how are they communicating? And that really speaks to the social media that you have here, which again was kind of in its infancy stage, if you will, compared to what it is now. So really, a lot of it did come down to the really significant interviews that the investigators were doing.
And one of the most unsettling aspects is how normal these friendships appeared on the surface. How does this case reveal about the hidden conflict that especially among teenagers?
I think I think what we really wanted to do with this series was kind of remind people what it's like to be 16. It's very easy to forget when you become an adult, and put that behind you. But about the fact that when you are that age, your brain behaves in such a way that your friends become much more important than your parents, than your family. Everything is very heightened. Your reasoning is off, if you like. Your idea of consequences, is very different to that of an adult. And when you have that combined with social media that is completely I say unregulated, but unwatched by anybody else, that's where the kind of combination was kind of so dangerous, really, I think, particularly for that generation who didn't have the hindsight that we have now.
And Claire, after someone watches all 3 episodes, what do you hope stays with them?
I hope people do reflect on their own use of sort of social media, on their children, on their family as well, and remember what it's like to be that age. But also, I hope that they come away from this feeling like they know Skylar, and she would have turned 30 just a few weeks ago. So that's a life that she didn't have. And she should have gone to college. She wanted to be a lawyer. There's all this life that didn't happen. And I'd love for people to come away knowing and remembering Skylar as she was.
Hey, I want to thank you two for joining me today. Friends Like These, The Murder of Skylar Neese, with all 3 episodes available to stream now on Hulu. I want to thank you two for joining me today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have you ever wondered what it takes to turn a classic story into something that feels fresh for a new generation? A Woman of Substance tells a story of Emma Harte, a woman who rises from humble beginnings to become one of the most powerful business figures of the 20th century. So joining us today are Jessica Reynolds and Brenda Blethyn, who play Emma at different stages of her remarkable life. Welcome to the show, you two. How are you?
Good, thank you.
All right, so for viewers who may not know the story, what is it about Emma Harte that has made a Woman of Substance such an enduring character for generations?
Well, it's a wonderful story of rags to riches, really, in a nutshell. A woman who rises from poverty against all the odds to become the richest woman in the world. And she's driven by a sense of justice and to get revenge on people who did her wrong. What she said.
And Jessica, we first meet Emma as a young woman with enormous ambition. What drew you to her, and what was the biggest challenge in bringing that version of Emma to life?
I think it's just such an inspiring story, and to have a period piece that is also from a working class woman's perspective is quite rare, and to see her kind of grow and evolve into this larger than life version of herself, like I can't imagine her ambitions were to be the richest woman in the world, but it happened for her. And I think that's because of the traumatic background and the difficult background that she comes from, and it just shows the strength of those communities and people from those backgrounds. So that was very alluring, yeah.
And Brenda, you play Emma after she's built this incredible empire. What do you enjoy most about stepping into such an iconic role?
The costumes. The makeup. After playing DCI Vera Stanhope for 14 years, it's quite nice to get out of the Mac and the hat and the grotty old house she lived in. But she's such an iconic character, and some people would say not particularly sympathetic. I often play sympathetic characters, so this was a bit of a diversion for me, and I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Even though you two are playing the same character at different ages, what conversations did the two of you have to make sure Emma felt like the same person throughout her journey?
0.
Okay.
I think like that there's such a distance between them, not only in age but also in experience. Like I think one of the biggest points is that she becomes a completely different person, and it's up for the audience to decide whether that's for the better or not.
And Emma refuses to accept the limitations society places on her. Why do you think her story still resonates with audiences today?
Because there's still a bit of a discrepancy between, equal wages between men and women. I bet a female engineer doesn't get as much as a male engineer, and in lots of professions there's not equality, and there should be.
Hey, I want to thank you two for joining me today. A Woman of Substance is now available on BritBox. For more information and to learn more about the series, visit BritBox.com. Jessica, Brenda, I really want to thank you two for joining me today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Summer is one of the busiest times of year, whether you're traveling, entertaining, or keeping up with a packed family calendar. Joining us with practical tips to help make it all a little easier is lifestyle and travel expert Julie Loffredi. Thanks for joining us, Julie.
Hey, thanks for having me.
So travel is a huge part of summer. What are some of your favorite travel essentials this year?
Yeah, I mean, there's so many things, but the big thing, keep it simple, make a plan. And hydration is often overlooked when we're on the go. A recent report from Liquid IV found that while most Americans know hydration is important, there is a hydration gap. Less than half of us actually feel hydrated daily. That's why I'm loving Liquid IV's new hydration multiplier sugar-free ring pop cherry. It combines the nostalgic flavor with Live Hydra Science. That's Liquid IV's science-backed hydration formula to hydrate faster than water alone. And this is really a great option for those road trips and all those busy summer adventures.
Parents are juggling a lot during the summer months. How can they make mealtime easier?
Yeah, well, certainly having a few easy meals in your back pocket means less time stressing out about dinner, more time just enjoying summer together. A new survey from Board and Cheese found that parents are craving simplicity more than ever, which is why I'm a big fan of having a few family-friendly recipes you can rely on. Board and individually wrapped singles make it easy to create simple and fun recipes like pizza grilled cheese sandwiches or Juicy Lucy cheeseburger sliders that both the kids and the grown-ups enjoy. You can check out simple recipes at boardandcheese.com/simple summer fun.
No, I'm getting hungry. Thanks for that. What's your advice for making the most of the season without feeling overwhelmed?
Yeah, in my household, I've got 2 active kids. Our summer calendar is always packed. But the big thing for us is to staying organized, planning in advance. Those recipes come in handy, staying hydrated, and make sure you're kind of prepared for the day.
Great advice, Julie. Where can our viewers go for more information?
Yeah, you can head to liquid-iv.com. You can also follow Borden_cheese on Instagram. They've got a bunch of weekly summer giveaways going on right now.
Julie, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks so much.
Financial stress is something many families are dealing with, but new research shows it may be affecting men in some unique ways. A survey from Beyond Finance found that many men feel financial struggles impact not only their finances, but also their confidence, identity, and mental health. Joining us is certified financial therapist Nathan Astle to help unpack those findings. Thanks for being here.
Of course, thanks for having me.
Your research shows many men still feel pressure to be the primary provider, but today's economy is making that increasingly difficult. What's driving that stress?
Yeah, there's a lot of different factors, and one is this disconnect between what men feel like is expected of them versus what they feel like they can do. 82% of men said that they feel like society still expects them to be the primary breadwinner. However, 70% of men said that that just doesn't feel realistic. There's due to rising costs, housing uncertainties, economic challenges. And so we've got a situation where we've got yesteryear's expectations being put on today's economy, and they're just not matching up.
And why does money continue to play such a significant role in how many men see themselves?
Well, for a lot of men, money is how they get their self-worth. When things are going well financially, they're feeling good about themselves. They're fulfilling that role. However, on the flip side, if things aren't going well, if there's financial challenges, it's more than just a financial challenge. It can become an identity crisis. Who am I if this isn't a role that I can fulfill? And that's where it gets more messy, I think, for men.
One thing that I know is many men choose not to discuss financial difficulties. Why are so many suffering in silence, and what are the mental health consequences?
Yeah, a ton of mental health consequences. Isolation is one of the worst things for our mental health, and as we're learning, one of the worst things for our financial health as well. Another part of the survey showed that over half of men have intentionally avoided financial conversations because they feel like they're supposed to be able to do it by themselves. And it's in that isolation, though, that things get a lot worse for us. And so it's a primary area of what we need to do different. We need to be able to talk more about money. We need to make it okay for men to talk about financial struggle, to talk about any struggle, and have that be a normal, accepted part of human living.
As we recognize Men's Mental Health Awareness Month, what advice would you offer to men who feel overwhelmed by financial pressure?
Yeah, a reminder that financial struggle is not a character flaw. It's a situation you're in, but it isn't who you are. The second piece is try to start small and start on any areas of your financial life that you do have some control over, that you do have some influence over. Even the smallest piece can empower us to make the next good choice or help us lead to what I would say is the final thing that we all should be focused on. Talk more. Talk more with your family, your friends, talk with your spouse, your partner, professionals. Talk about what's going on and don't isolate. Don't shoulder this alone. Anywhere that is a good place to start with that is make sure that you are reaching out to your support networks because humans aren't supposed to do hard things alone.
And where can our viewers find additional resources and information?
Definitely check out beyondfinance.com. There's a whole section on that website with financial wellness resources, videos, blogs, all that kind of stuff. So beyondfinance.com is a great place to start.
Nathan, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Of course, thanks for having me.
Most of us have access to plenty of nutrition advice, but figuring out what actually applies to our lives can be a bit more complicated. From meal planning to dining out, people are looking for guidance that's personal and practical. Today, we are joined by Melissa Jaeger, registered dietitian and head of nutrition at MyFitnessPal, to talk about how AI is helping make nutrition advice a little more tailored to the individual. Welcome to the show, Melissa. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thanks so much for having me.
Okay, so why does generic nutrition advice often fall short, and what does truly personalized guidance look like?
We have access to so much nutrition information out there today, and I think what we forget is that just because it worked for your friend, your family member, your neighbor, does not mean it's personalized to you, nor is it necessarily going to work, because it's not taking into account things like what you ate today, what your nutrient needs are, or what your personal nutrition goals are. And that's where MyFitnessPal's new AI coach is different, because it's grounded in your real logged behavior, taking into consideration what meals you've eaten recently, what your personal nutrient needs are, factoring in things like your saved recipes, all to deliver that personalized guidance to help support you as you're navigating your health and nutrition goals.
So how are these AI coaching tools helping people better understand how their everyday food choices connect to their long-term health goals?
We've had access, or the ability, I should say, to track our nutrition for quite some time now, gathering insights into our calories and macronutrient and micronutrient intake. But the real challenge is taking all of that data and turning those insights into action. And that's where our AI coach allows you, through conversational guidance, to turn those logged behaviors and those insights into what's next. So instead of staring at all of these different numbers going, what do they mean and what should I do about it? You can start to better understand how your current habits and what you're eating today are impacting your long-term goals.
And what kind of questions can people ask an AI nutrition coach? And how can it help in real-world situations like dining out or maybe even meal prepping?
I always recommend starting with open-ended nutrition questions right off the bat to start generating that personalized insight and some more awareness into your habits. But if you want to dive right into real-world scenarios, you can prompt it and say, I'm going to this restaurant this week. Based on their menu, what should I order to still hit my macro goals? Or maybe you're going to be cooking a little bit more at home and focusing on your budget. You can prompt it by saying, I'm going to be meal prepping this week. What are the best budget-friendly protein options I should be building into my recipes? But beyond those real-world scenarios, maybe you're just looking for some nutrition insights. over time, you maybe have seen that you're not quite hitting your fiber goal every day, or maybe you're falling a little bit short on your protein goal. You can ask the AI coach for food swaps or meal pairing ideas to help you to meet those goals in the long term.
All right, so where can people download MyFitnessPal and how do they get started with AI Coach?
Head on into the Apple App Store or Google Play Store and download MyFitnessPal today. And in order to unlock AI Coach and some of our enhanced logging features like our meal scan or voice logging, you can upgrade to a premium or premium plus subscription.
Melissa Jaeger, I really want to thank you for joining me today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Summer tends to bring out the best intentions, more movement, more time outdoors, and maybe a few healthier choices along the way. But between vacations, cookouts, and packed schedules, keeping those habits going can be a challenge. Christine Bibbo Herr is here with some simple ideas that can fit into real life. Welcome to the show, Christine. How are you, my friend?
Hi, thank you for having me. I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing okay. As people get more active during the summer, what's one small challenge that can have a surprisingly big impact on overall health and wellness?
Yes, well, staying active is a great goal, but sometimes it's hard to get all those nutrients we need through diet alone, especially when it comes to omega-3s. And research shows that nearly 80% of Americans aren't getting enough when it comes to omega-3 fatty acids. And they're really important in supporting our immune, heart, brain, and joint health. So that's why I love Now Krill Oil. It's a unique form of omega-3s with better absorption than traditional fish oil and clinically studied benefits for an active lifestyle, like exercise, recovery, and joint health. And what I love is that Now uses Egger Biomarine NKO oil, a little tongue twister there. And I love that because it's the most researched and sustainable krill oil on the market. It goes through quality, rigorous testing, so you know you're getting exactly what's on the label.
And more activity outside could also be more everyday aches and pains and soreness. What do you recommend for people who want to stay active without, feeling slowed down?
Yeah, so that's something that creeps up on you and you're at least prepared for when that activity ramps up. So having something fast and effective on hand can make all the difference. And that's why I always pack BioFreeze. It's been trusted for over 30 years with healthcare providers, athletic trainers, pain sufferers, and it really helps for that fast-acting cooling relief for muscles and joints. And then for their menthol-based products, like this BioFreeze Pain Roll-On Relief Gel, it produces a cold sensation so that it helps to override those pain signals in the brain, and that really helps with relief. And the size is great. You could take it on the go, bring it with you traveling. It's really a great option for summer.
And summer food, it's all part of the fun. How can people make healthier choices at cookouts and family gatherings without feeling like they're missing out?
Yes, well, people want simple ingredients that are recognizable and they can feel good about serving their family without having to choose between better-for-you options and great taste. And that's where Bragg comes in. They're a trusted wellness brand for over 100 years, and they've helped shape the modern apple cider vinegar movement. Their apple cider vinegar is made from organically grown apples. It's raw, unfiltered, and naturally fermented. And I love its versatility because you can create everything from mocktails and marinades to dressings, sauces, and grilling recipes. So you're really going to get that flavor and wellness in your seasonal dishes.
And hydration, it seems to be a challenge this time of year. What are some easy ways to make sure that we're getting enough water throughout the day?
Yes, well, hydration is one of the simplest things we can do to support our wellness, especially if you're entertaining. And that's where Water Drop solutions come in. The Water Drop M6H delivers cleaner, better tasting water, and it has multiple temperature settings. So you can easily make tea, coffee, oatmeal, and customized beverages. And then for everyday hydration, we have the Water Drop glass water filter pitcher. That's sustainable, and it's a beautiful table-ready design, so it's perfect for keeping family and guests really refreshed this season.
All right, and if people want information on everything we discussed today, where should they go?
They can check out nycpretty.com.
Christine, I want to thank you for joining me today.
Thanks so much. Thanks for having me.
Most of us spend decades focused on building up our retirement savings. What's interesting is that once retirement arrives, a lot of people have a hard time switching gears and actually using that money. New research has taken a closer look at what's being called the retirement spending paradox. So joining us today are Terri Fiedler from Corebridge Financial and personal finance expert Jean Chatzky. It's great to have you two on here. How are you?
Great. Nice to see you.
Yeah, good to be here. Thank you.
Okay, Terri, what does the latest Corebridge research tell us about the way Americans think about spending their retirement savings?
Yeah, so our research reveals something interesting is that people, when they're approaching retirement, that their retirement that they envision is different than what they actually feel comfortable with spending when they get there, spending their money when they get to retirement. And so 6 in 10 people associate retirement with freedom and enjoyment, yet only 25% or a quarter of people feel comfortable spending their money and actually seeing their assets decline to support their lifestyle. And people have saved and invested, and they've been trained, and it's become a habit to save for 40 years or so. And they're not psychologically prepared to spend that money when they actually get into retirement.
And Jean, what's driving that hesitation, and why are so many retirees still worried about spending money they've specifically saved for retirement?
Because there are a lot of things that we can't predict. We can't predict how long we're going to live, or what our healthcare costs are going to be later in life, or what the markets are going to do, or inflation, or interest rates. And all of those factors combined, they tie retirees up into knots when it comes to spending. About 40% of retirees tell us that they are not spending as much as they would like to be spending, specifically because they're trying to preserve the balance in their retirement accounts. What seems to help is the existence of a decumulation or a spending plan that lays out exactly how you're going to get money out of those retirement accounts. It boosts confidence in spending. It empowers people to feel like they can actually use their resources. So it turns out to be a really good thing.
And Terri, your research points to the importance of having a drawdown strategy. How does the decumulation plan change the retirement experience? And where does the 4% rule fit into that conversation today?
Yeah, rules can be a helpful starting point, but retirement is really personal and it's complex, and there's not a one-size-fits-all approach. So there's different circumstances and different priorities for each of us, and there's different longevity, there's different healthcare costs, different tax implications, and so having a strategy that fits your personal circumstances and your personal priorities is more important than following a rule.
And Jean, for someone who's approaching retirement or already there, what are a few practical ways to build confidence around spending and still feeling financially secure?
You want to have a grip on your own retirement. When are you going to retire? Where are you going to retire? How much is that retirement likely to cost? Is your mortgage going to be paid off or not? And once you've got that, then you go to a financial advisor, you sit down, and you figure out where the sources of that money are going to come from. What's going to come from Social Security? Are you going to take a chunk of your assets and convert them into an additional paycheck in the form of guaranteed income? Are there any other resources that you can draw on? All of that combined shows to make people feel a lot better about those years that are left to come.
And Terri, where can our viewers find more information and resources on this topic?
Yes, they could go to corebridgefinancial.com/decumulation.
Terri, Jean, I want to thank you two for joining me today.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Alrighty, Raleigh, that's going to do it for this week's Rise and Unwind. Hopefully you're feeling a little more awake, or at least one step closer to it. Thanks for starting your morning with us. And if you want more in between shows, you can always find us on socials at Rise Unwind, and we can keep hanging out. Until next time, have a great morning, Raleigh.